Yo guys, welcome back on the channel. Looks like Giovanni Leoni is off to Liverpool officially as per all the reports today. But other centre backs exist out there. There are other options out there, and similar to how we looked at alternatives for Ademola Lookman in today's video, I'm gonna talk you through some alternatives that Inter have reportedly linked to, but also other names that they haven't been linked to that we'll discuss and kind of discuss which ones are my favorites. And of course, you guys let me know in the comments down below which ones are your favorites and mention other names that we may not mention in this video because there are a lot. There's so many centre backs out there. Giovanni Leoni, of course, was a special one because he's only 18. Fantastic talent. Thought to be by our coach, Christian Chivo, to be the future of Italy's centre back position. And I think we can agree it probably is. But again, he only had about 6 months of real first team action in Serie A at the top level. 2 performances that really projected or propelled his stardom and his price to 40 million euros, and which is maybe a little bit overpriced. But will Inter regret this move of not getting Giovanni Leoni? Maybe down the line. We'll see. But I think in terms of if you compare it to the Buongiorno and Bremer regrets, those were bigger regrets because those were certainties. So let's take a look at the current situation at Inter and see how it currently looks and what Inter need. I mean, numerically, our sporting director, Piero Ausilio, he did say that numerically we are fine at the back. And in terms of that, he's right. But we know it's not just this year, not even just last year. From 2 years, we've kind of needed this, rejuvenation project at the back. We keep giving these short renewals to Acerbi and De Vrij to just, keep the boat afloat. And they have kept the boat afloat. If we look back at goals conceded last year in the big games, in big moments, it's not, I don't think you can ever pinpoint into losing a game because of Acerbi or because of De Vrij, because they're old, because they're slow, because they can't keep up with players. It's more of a generational thing in terms of Inter do need to start building and looking towards the future, especially with this new project. But also because we know Inzaghi mentioned it in the past, but I don't think he ever had the squad or really the I don't know if he had the ability to try to play the football that I think he wanted to play. And Chivo has come in and said he wants to play with a higher line, higher press, which means playing with a lot more space in behind you, which in theory we know does not suit Acerbi and De Vrij. Even at their pomp, we're talking about De Vrij and Acerbi, even when they were younger, probably not suited to this style of play. But now Acerbi 37, 38, De Vrij 32, I believe. It doesn't suit them. But this is how the state of play is currently at the back. We know that Inter are open to selling either Pavard and Bisek. And of course, we know Palacios is there. I've added his name, but I think hopefully he does leave on loan to prove himself. So we are definitely one more name in there, regardless, would help. If Leoni came in, I don't think he would have started over Acerbi and De Vrij. Yes, Chivu being there maybe would have, guaranteed him a bit more playing time than it would have under someone like Inzaghi. And maybe Leoni signing would force Inter's hand to get rid of one of Acerbi and De Vrij. More likely, Acerbi, there's a 500k option to cancel his contract. But what do you need as a centre back? Some people say you should move Bisek there. Bisek has a potential, or even Pavard. The issue with both of them, mainly Bisek, is they're both, and we'll talk about some of the alternatives, they're both forward-facing, aggressive centre backs that like to move into these spaces. They like to cover the channels. They definitely have the athleticism, definitely in terms of Bisek at the moment, covering wide channels, deeper channels, and then on the ball, moving forward, progressing the ball into here, into there. But playing centre back is definitely, you are the anchor, you are the leader at the back. You probably have less duels to face in a game compared to these two positions, but the duels you face are much more important and much more critical because they are in the most dangerous area of the pitch, the center, and of course the center of the box. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if you play these roles, you can easily transition to one of these positions. And I don't think any of these guys can actually play that position. More Pavard than Bisek, I would say personally. Which, let's see if Kivu also believes that, because Inzaghi clearly didn't believe that. We saw Bisek play there rarely, some preseason games, maybe at the end of some games, but it's clear that Inzaghi didn't believe in that. Let's see how it progresses on the Kivu. Now let's move on to some of those names. So I've got data MB up in terms of I've put in aerial duel 1% versus defensive duel 1%. It's not ideal. I know, guys. This is not how you pick a centre back. This is not how you would scout a centre back. Centre backs is definitely the hardest position in terms of using stats to determine, because everything, you can't tell how good a centre back is from the stats, because it's the style of play, it's the whole team that is defending, it's not just individual. But it gives you a little indication as to what the player is good at and not good at. So some of the names, like I'll put in Stefan de Vrij and Acerbi are in here. Where is Acerbi? Here he is. Here is Acerbi. Both of them have played exactly the same amount of minutes, because they split the time at centre back because of Acerbi's injury last year, which is another reason why Inter do need to look to the future. They do both well in the defensive duel 1%. De Vrij actually shines. He's one of the best, if not the best, in the whole of, I think, I've put top 7 leagues here. Look how well De Vrij is doing in that. And he's also slightly better than Acerbi in the aerial duel 1%. If you want to look at the top performers, you got this Nade guy from Saint Etienne. Of course, you got the current, maybe most people would say is the best centre back in the world right now for a few years, for the last half decade, Virgil van Dijk. Then you have some maybe overperformers, or some, you could say Otamendi's always been good there. Pavlovic, Milan, but again, this is why you don't judge off stats. If you look at this, you think of Pavlovic, absolute monster in the air, absolute monster in duels, fantastic centre back. But we can toggle with some of the filters in the moment. But I just wanted to put forward the players that we're linked with. So let's start off down here. Lukumi from Bologna, who actually surprisingly not doing well in many aspects, not doing well in aerial duels. Below 50%, I would say, is the minimum that you should be having if you want to be considered for this role, because I think aerial duels are important in the centre back position when you'll be pinned against one of the strikers. And he's also not doing well in the defensive duel 1%. And actually, Lukumi is a guy that I'm not too keen on. He's available from Bologna. I think he has 1 year left on his contract. He's 26, Colombian. He's very good on the ball. If I change the toggles, the filters to the ball playing, I think Lukumi would have been one of the best ones. But he has a brain fart in him. I'm not keen. One of the key things I want to discuss here, I'm not keen to buy a centre back just for the sake of buying someone. Leoni, I was on board with that, because we know that that's for now, but also mainly for the future. Some of these names here, these would be like, Saul Coco. I saw someone mention him on Twitter. That's why I added him here. The Torino centre back. Like, yeah, you could bring him in. Maybe, he adds a bit of pace, a bit of athleticism, but like, you're not really looking for him to take over from Acerbi and De Vrij, realistically. So those some of these names, I've added them because we're linked to them. Coppola as well, the boy that went to Brighton last year, had a very good year at Hellas Verona at 21 years of age, ranks well. He was massive. I think he's like 6'4", 6'5", does well in the air, also well on defensive duels. Was available for 10 million euros, which is absolutely ridiculous. Maybe we could have gone for him as well. But again, do I feel like Coppola has first of all, the characteristics? He's not particularly quick. He's quite tall, slow. I don't think he would have added anything different to Acerbi and De Vrij, apart from just being young. And I don't really see the ceiling for Coppola to be, the starting centre-back for Italy and for a top team. I might be wrong on that. That's my opinion. Some of the names, we got Bisek here as well, who does well. Benji Pavard actually not looking too good in terms of that confirms kind of the off year that Benji Pavard had last year. I think definitely out of his 2 years at Inter, this was by far his worst. And that's why Inter are open to selling him, getting rid of his heavy salary, if he is going to play like that again and with his age. As usual, there's always a wild card pick in there. Like you got a Wesley Fofana from Chelsea. We know with Chelsea, they have a squad of like 40, 50 players, similar to how we're linked to Nkunku from Chelsea as probably a last minute move at the end of the Mercato if we're able to pull off a loan. This is something that you could look at. But again, this is just would be numerical. He's injury prone. He has some ACL issues. Yeah, he was very good at Leicester a few years back when Chelsea splashed out crazy money for him. That is a name that you could look at the end of the Mercato. Other names that we've been linked to, you can see Leoni is there. Loic Bade is a name that has come up in the last couple of days. Very heavy today. Some reports out of Germany are saying that Bayer Leverkusen have a deal agreed with Sevilla and the player, but Inter are interested in the player and have asked him to actually wait and not complete the move to Leverkusen because they feel like if they move someone from the centre-back position, they would go for him. And actually, that is a name I like. I've not mentioned him in the past, I think. Maybe on the live stream I may have mentioned him, but he's a player that I like. He is 25 now, so coming into, good years, having some good years of experience at Sevilla, a struggling Sevilla team, but I've always liked him. He's very good on the ball. Can also play one of those wide centre-back roles, but because Sevilla primarily play four at the back, he, I think, could easily slot in to one of those centre-back positions. Would be quite versatile, good age, and according to the reports, he's available for around 30 million euros. Expensive options out there are like Ousmane Diomande from Sporting. We know those Portuguese teams, especially Sporting, Benfica, they make you pay top money for their players, and they have crazy release clauses. I believe some of the Premier League teams are interested in Diomande over the last couple of years, and the quotes have always been 50, 60 million plus euros, probably unreachable for Diomande. He also strikes me more as a wide centre-back, wide defender, very athletic, good on the ball. Positionally, from when I watched him, he gives me some issues, or I have some doubts over him. His partner, Gonzalo Inacio, I really like him. He reminds me a little bit of Ruben Diaz, who Man City signed from Benfica all those years back for a lot of money. Again, Sporting, I think he's their captain, Inacio, 23 years of age. They will quote you big money for him, even though he doesn't rank well here. Berkema, the guy that Napoli signed, I preferred Berkema for the centre-back position more than Lukumi, and Napoli landed him for around 30 plus million euros, which is not bad. Then I put some other examples in there of players that play in the centre-back position in Serie A, like Gianluca Mancini for Roma. I've seen in the preseason, this is where Gasperini's playing him right now, and Ranieri played him a few times last year for Roma. And then there's also Renato Vega, who was on loan to Juventus last year. Juventus do want to re-sign him. He's available for around 30. Again, it seems to be that's the ask for a decent centre-back these days, 30 million euros. This is a guy I like a lot, but he's a little bit on the shorter side. If I remember, Ryan Flamingo from PSV, I saw him perform very, very well against Victor Gyökeres, PSV versus Sporting Lisbon, almost man-marking him in that game. He strikes me as a wide defender, but the way he defended in that game against Gyökeres, being very positionally aware, man-marking, very old-school game he played against him, following him around everywhere. That gave me the idea or potential that this guy could be a centre-back and a very, very comfortable on the ball centre-back that allows you to, change the way you build up from the back as well. We also have guys like we've been linked with to Omar Sulet from Udinese, who I like a lot, but he definitely strikes me as a wide centre-back. We saw him against Inter, how good he is getting forward, shooting from distance. His passing ability, technical ability is top-notch. 25 years of age. He's got some issues off the pitch. He's got some legal case that he's, working through at the moment that makes him a little bit of a red flag. Like if you guys remember Goodmanson last year for Fiorentina, he had this kind of, not very nice case going off the pitch that needs to be sorted out. But he also could be available around that 20-30 million euro mark. But again, more of a wide centre back for me. And a name that has really quietened down over the last few months. He had and this is why, with Leoni, I'm like not too crazy that we lost out on him, because Komutso, if you were talking about Komutso, there's so many players there that it doesn't pick up the Komutso's name, but you can see where he's ranking. First 6 months of Serie A last season, Komutso was like the hot property. He was like, yeah, like this is the future of Italy. Napoli wanted him. They were ready to put 30, 40 million on the plate for Fiorentina. They apparently rejected that. And then second half of the season comes along. No one was talking about him because he had a dip in form. He had a few mistakes. Of course, how old is he? He's like 18, 19 years old. Yeah, I can't actually get to him. Let me just search it up quickly so we can be accurate. I don't want to be chatting pup. Yeah, he's 20 years old. Not very good on the ball. I think that's one of the reasons why not too many teams are keen on Komutso. He's not that great on the ball. He's a bit of an old school player. Maybe more like a Buongiorno, who's also not that good on the ball, but he did look very good in his first 6 months and then had a dip. But if he's available, according to reports, if he's available again around that 30 million euro mark, that also is interesting proposition, interesting option for Inter to look at. And I definitely would keep an eye out for Komutso. So that's kind of the names out there that are kind of, again, I'm focusing on realistic names. Last time in the Lookman alternative video, I talked about guys like, some of the wingers that we could potentially go for, and some of them ended up, they sounded realistic, but then things happen on the market, like Nusa. RB Leipzig end up selling Sheshko, and apparently they're selling also Xavi Siving. So now they're definitely not going to sell Nusa, and the price is going crazy through the roof. Guys like Akliush, Monaco are asking 70 million. So they sound like, realistic, but the transfer market these days, the prices are through the roof. But again, similar to Lookman and similar to Leoni now, there's players out there. The centre-backs out there. Leoni is not the only one. This upcoming Serie A season, there will be a new Komutso. There will be a new Leoni. There always is a new, young, up-and-coming player that comes through. It's not the end of the world, but Inter do need to start making moves and to start securing the future of that back line. Will they do it? I have my doubts. I don't think either Pavard or Bisek are leaving, and I think we are going to once again go into the season with Acerbi and De Vrij as the centre backs. It is what it is. Let's see what happens in this transfer window. You guys, let me know your names, your comments down below on the names I mentioned and the names you should think we mention. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Ciao ragazzi, Forza Inter, wake up, Ausilio and Marotta.